The ASUU union is currently on strike following the 2009 agreement between them and the federal government, which was not implemented.
Yes.
I recall that the first time they had this issue, there was also a 6-month strike as at the time. This was 2013. So now there's also another strike ongoing, which they say is indefinite.
Yes.
I'd like to know from you if the union still believes that today's strike actions would force the government to implement the 2009, agreement.
It is not a question about forcing, because we are university teachers. Our weapon is logic and persuasion. And so what we are doing is to take the moral battle to the government of the day. It is not about forcing anybody. It's about Nigeria's future. It's about the development of our country. We all know that one of the major deficits in the continent is the deficit of knowledge and learning. And so the only way we can overcome it is when there is heavy investment in education, in this country. And it's surprising that despite the state of education in this country, that many Nigerian scholars still excel wherever they go. They still excel. I mean, if I look back my days from the secondary school, using is it bush lantern they call it now, to read and all of that, and compare that to my doctoral studies in the UK. It was possible for me to finish my doctoral studies in 1 year, but of course we could not negate the rules, and that is simply because of the what I call soft use of data. The books are available, the journals are available, and when your university library does not have a particular book, there is interlibrary loan. They get it for you, and so everything is just there. But here, when you want to print even a document, the light is gone. We can't use slides in the classrooms because lighting facilities are not there. As at the time I left the University of London, we were using transparency. This paper you cut it and put, and you focus and the rest of them. That was the state of facility. Even then, overhead cameras were already available. But how many of our classrooms do you have those things? So we still manage to graduate students year in, year out. But of course, there is also a major deficit in terms of the quality of what you are turning out. You want to use a YouTube material, you download, you can't project. That is if you have a laptop and all of that. So there is heavy infrastructural deficiency in Nigerian universities. And of course, there's always that picture of where we ought to be. Go to Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. You see a first-class university that was built by, our immediate post-independent, leaders, Chief Obafemi Awolowo. And that institution today, if you go there, it has not been, rehabilitated, but the structures are first-class, structure that you find anywhere in the world. But they've been allowed to rot. That is what you have in the country. Some universities have been even turned into shopping centers. So it is not conducive for learning. So these are the questions. And we just said then, we had a discussion with the federal government. Let me make one point very clear for those who want to make a case for the Nigerian government, that the economic foundation of this country is statist, by which I mean the state controls almost 100% of the resources of the country. In Nigeria, there's nothing like indigenous capital. Even the so-called private businessmen take their money from the government at the end of the day. And so it becomes not just obligatory, it's also a moral, obligation on the part of the government of the day to fund education in this country. So let's not make any mistake about it. Per capita income in the USA and probably England is ranges to about, from about 7,000 United States dollars to about 7,000 or 6,000 pounds. Here, how much is it? About $200. You then expect poor families, women selling bully by the roadside to pay school fees. It is not possible. It is not possible. So these are the issues. So we then arrive at what we call needs assessment, in which case, at the time the mass was done, we needed about 1.3 trillion naira to revitalize the educational sector. And between then and now, as I speak, government only gave about 200 billion naira. And the residue was expected to be disbursed, in tranches, maybe about 3 times. None has been fulfilled. You must have heard about the so-called end academic allowance, which is also part of the issue. I think as at the last count, the leadership of ASUU talked about 128 billion. Federal government banded a figure of about 53 billion. But of course, they claim they gave about 30 billion naira, which the academics have not been able to account for. And so they are withholding, the balance until that is done. So these are the arguments. But the thing is that it is not what I would call, it is not subject of politicization, or argument for the sake of argument. We need to fund education in this country if we want to wake up development in this country. Of course, people talk about the first principle, in terms of not getting the political unit rights, so every other thing can follow, really. That point is there. But of course, there is a lot that the power of education, the knowledge industry can do to our country in terms of transformation. I always refer to Kerala in India. Kerala was a kind of a state-run, a socialist kind of government within India. And they invested heavily in education. The educated elites in Kerala were those who were running, the ICT industries and companies in the US, in Silicon Valley, right from India, because they've got the skill and capacity, and they could export that skill and capacity. And so the value chain within a community that is educated cannot, be measured.
Yes, why still I agree with you that the educational system in this country needs a lot of funding. I'd also think that there has to be a way of ensuring that students stay in school while ASUU and the federal government sorts this out. Because you cannot keep students out of school indefinitely, underlined word, and still by some kind of miracle expect that you'd, at the end of the day, produce, get the best results out of the educational system. That can work. So are there no other alternatives to sorting this issue out? Is strike action the best language that the government can understand?
Well, it is like playing the devil's advocate to talk about students outside the teachers. We are part and parcel of the same system. You don't prize the momentary convenience of students, over and above the future of education, in this country. We are talking about generations of students yet to come, not those who are there now, and even those who are there, even were to, succumb to moral blackmail by parents. What do you have to produce the quality of students that you need? If you go to some classes, some schools don't have big theaters, lecture theaters. And so, in my department, of which I'm the head, we have 2 staff courses, as we call them. Pole 312, then Pole 106. It's interfaculty. It cuts across. And so no single class can take the students. So what we do is that we divided the class into sections so that if a lecturer teaches in the morning, he comes back 4 p.m. again to teach. We then split the students into groups. We do that. But elsewhere there are lecture theaters that can take the students. In fact, you can have transmission boards, in other classes, and they will follow. And so whether you deal with the deficit within the educational sector now or not, if you don't deal with it and you say, okay, let us succumb to some illogical moral blackmail because we want the students to remain, on campus, you still continue to churn out, half-educated graduates. That is the truth. I can tell you as a teacher, and also who have tested 2 systems, Nigerian system and, European educational system at the end of the day. So that's it. It's not about keeping the students there. You say, okay, the student will be there for a very long time and the rest of them. If we stay and the facilities are not there, and you are dealing with an irresponsible political elite, I'm happy that the Minister of Education, Adamu, just admitted that they have not fulfilled their part of the negotiation. So that tells you that at least the academic staff union of universities are on the right path, and that they stay on a very high moral ground as far as this question is concerned. Not to talk about, the compulsion, the necessity for, revitalizing the educational sector in this country. I recall Professor Wole Soyinka was talking about declaring a state of emergency in education, that we can close Nigerian universities for as long as we want, then rebuild from the foundation, from the scratch, to have institutions that we can call, institutions, properly speaking. The truth is that we all know the power of education. And I'm sure we also have the statistics of Nigerians that are abroad, whether in the United States. I know about some statistics from the Bay Area in the US, say, all the higher degrees holders in California and all of them in the Bay Area, they are Nigerians who happen to be out of the country. If you go to the UK, hardly any university you enter that you don't see a Nigerian, a member of the faculty. Now, how do you bring these people back to the country? We just lost Professor Abiola Irale, who came from the US and was, pioneering the humanities section in Kwara State University. To get an Abiola Irale back to the country, it takes a lot of patriotism and conviction that you can help turn your country, around. These are things that when we have a good educational system, no Nigerian, will want to go outside. I just talked about Obafemi Awolowo in Ife. Look at the Museum of Natural Sciences or so. That structure alone, even unrehabilitated as it is, can make money for the university in form of postcards. It's a unique structure, architecture, and the rest of it. So there are so many, the value that the educational sector can unleash, cannot be measured. Cannot be measured. If in those days you used to fabricate, machines for our environment, this Pado Yam and the rest of them that people do now, if all those things were fabricated, we've got the skills, but the environment is not there. The determination, we have the determination to turn our country around. Because if you look at industrialization everywhere in the world, they will tell you from farm to factory, and the level of development of productive forces depends on the creativity, the ingenuity of a people in the context of the limitations of the environment. That's it. And so, if we have functioning educational system in this country, we can turn our country around.